I've continued to play ranked on my main account, and I just actually had a pretty fun game from the score line. This top game right here from the score line, it was pretty boring, but I discovered something about a matchup that kind of has me kicking myself as to why I never thought about this before. But for the matchup, it works really, really well. It is a... Oh, I think I clicked the wrong one. Go back. It is Singed versus Gnar. Now, this player right here, Cloud Win, he always plays Gnar in top lane whenever he gets top lane. If he doesn't play Gnar, I think he's been playing some AD Kennen too. But this game, he locked in Gnar, and in the past, every time I've played versus him, I have tended to lose the lane really hard, and a lot of times he's snowballed the game and won. But this time, I approached the game a little bit differently than I usually do, and I think that was a big part of the reason why I didn't really fall that far behind. And I was like, yeah, it also allowed him to never allowed him to solo kill me because of the way that I built and the runes that I used. I'll play this, or start this replay up here in a second, but the win right there got me to, where am I? I think it's 109. Yeah, I'm rank 109. Pretty proud of that right now. Going for top 100. Hopefully we're there soon. But I'll go ahead and start up this replay. Okay. So what did I do differently this game? What I ended up doing differently was I changed my runes from the standard rune setup, and I changed my build from the standard build setup. My normal rune setup that I actually will talk about Spellbook 2 and the changes that they made to it. But my standard build setup has been sorcery into, or sorry, no, inspiration into sorcery, and then changing the sorcery part into resolve is what I did. So my normal runes are Spellbook, Dematerializer, the Magical Footwear, and Time Warp Tonic with Ultimate Hat and Celerity. So this game, my inspiration runes all stay the same, but I changed sorcery into resolve, and I took bone plating, and I took conditioning. Now the reason I did that was because without bone plating, Gnar will poke you out very easily. He can actually poke you out. A good Gnar will poke you out completely before the first wave is even over. We see with bone plating, I tanked a lot of damage there. So throughout the course of the lane, that bone plating helps me avoid getting killed a few times. It helps me push a lane where I normally would have died before I had my my first big buy, which is a chain vest in this game, and that actually leads me into the build that I changed. So the change in the build is that I ran a Dead Man's Plate Rush. Now, usually I don't recommend running a Dead Man's Plate Rush just because you don't have any damage. And I'm a huge advocate of going Rylai's first every single game, unless you're versus a very tanky team, in which case I'd go Landry's first. Now, in the past, I had continued to run Rylai's first versus Gnar with Inspiration Sorcery, and what ended up happening was this player, particular Gnar player, would just destroy me in lane. He'd start snowballing, and he'd get to the point where no one could really contain him because I would be way too far behind. Then he would start pushing onto my tier 2. He'd start pushing onto my tier 3. But with a Dead Man's Plate Rush, what ended up happening was he never had kill potential on me, and he couldn't split push versus me either, because with the Dead Man's Plate, you run back to lane very, very quickly after you're done recalling. The build path for Dead Man's Plate, the lead up into the complete item, you have a chain vest is what I did first, into a giant's belt, and with the free boots master, I didn't have to worry about spending gold on the boots, and that allowed me to really be quite tanky. After I finish chain vest, you'll see that he does a lot less damage to me, which is really, really important in this scenario, because Gnar is a character who wants to kill you in lane. Generally, he's very successful at doing that. You see, even right now, he's been, you know, zoning me out a little bit. Actually, I'm ahead of him in CS at this point. Generally, I don't expect that to happen, but with me using my teleport a lot earlier than he did, it's to be expected, because I added a little bit of extra cheese to my recipe. the Dematerializers. So I want to talk about Dematerializers. I've been running Minion Dematerializer for a while, and the split that I do for them has changed. I used to do 2 melees, 1 ranged, and 3 cannons, but the recent minion changes have made it so that it is much less important to CS range minions because they decrease the gold that you get from range minions from like early game from 17 to 14, I think. And they increase the gold that you get from cannons, and they increase the gold that you get from melee minions. So I think melee minions get about 21, up from 18. So what I've ended up doing is I just use 3 Dematerializers on melees and 3 Dematerializers on cannons, and I've been skipping using one on the range minion completely. Right here, what I'm doing is he has a freeze on me, and even with Chain Vest, I don't want to walk up there and tank him because he's a level up. And he's actually about halfway to 6, so if I stand right there, he's going to end up killing me because he's at level 6 while I'm still level 4. So what I ended up doing was running down here and just skipping this wave right here and starting to proxy. With Chain Vest, I'm not taking too much damage. With Dematerializers, I'm still able to clear the minion waves without having a whole lot of AP. That kind of leads me into wanting to talk about the new Spellbook. So I think I put a video out recently where I was not too fond of the new Spellbook, and I realize now that I definitely overreacted a little bit. And the reason I say that is because I've had much more time to play around with this Spellbook, and I actually do like it. It does not help Singed as much as the old Spellbook did. The old one was definitely better for him, and it was definitely better for top laners, but I think I did not anticipate how good this one still was, if that makes sense. This one's definitely much better than I initially gave it credit for. You can do a lot of cool things, like you can, yeah, I guess, like, see right there, he did miss his boomerang, but with bone plating and the chain vest, he barely did any damage to me. Well, even while I'm proxying and tanking minions. So the cool part is you can switch to from teleport to smite, like right here. Then you can just clear the jungle camp while, because I have vision of Olaf. See, I see him over here harassing the graves while he's counter jungling. So I go over here and I just take his what is this thing called? The frog, the grump. I go over here and take his grump with my smite and then just dip out. And every time you use a swapped summoner, or swap to another summoner, you lower the cooldown of the swap by 15 seconds. Generally, I found that with Singed, since you tend to not want clarity, you don't really want clarity and what's the other one? Clarity and smite. I don't have a chance to go smite every game. If you do go smite, you can get 7 out of 8 procs of your spellbook, and if you don't go smite, you tend to go 6 out of 8. I haven't really found a situation in which it's ever useful to actually go clarity. I don't even use it just to like switch to it and then pop it really quickly just to get the cooldown stack and get the extra 15 seconds. I found that to not really be worth it. But you can do lots of cool things. You can switch to heal, you can switch to barrier. People really don't expect the heal or the barrier cheese. You can get lots of really fun outplays with barrier. Right here, I see Graves coming up, so I pop my Ghost, and I'm just... what Graves is doing is he's standing out... Actually, I'm going to rewind that a little bit. I like what Graves is doing here. This is what really good junglers will do, is this Gnar, what he wants to do is walk over to this wall and flash over. Now, Graves is standing on the other side of the wall. Gnar can't kill me because I'm way too tanky. If Gnar just sits here and fights me, he'll die. And if he flashes over the wall, then he'll die there too. So what he ends up doing is messing up his pathing. I was standing in front of him right there, so he couldn't like hug this wall, because there's only one spot where you can hug this wall and flash over. It's right here. So if you stand right there and you flash, you'll go over. Actually, no, it's right here, right where the finger on my cursor is. But since I was standing like right here, and Mega Gnar's character model is so huge, he couldn't actually make his way around to fight me, or not to fight me. He couldn't make his way around me to flash. So it ended up fucking up his pathing, and we got a good kill out of it. I proxied the next wave, and now I'm actually tied with him in CS, even though I skipped an entire wave to proxy. As you can see, with Chain Vest and Ruby Crystal, he has a really hard time killing me. That in addition to bone plating. I'm about to actually have my conditioning pop at 10 minutes, and that makes me even tankier than I already am. I just got my free boots. And we have a Cloud Dragon. So I'm running back to lane with 403 movement speed, which is quite fast. I don't even miss a single creep for getting all the way back here, which is really, really good. After my recall, usually you will miss a CS or two, but this wave I actually didn't end up missing, which is good. Well, I missed that CS, but I got the XP for it, which is what's important. He does a EQ combo. He doesn't really do that much damage to me. It's really working out well that I have had this just on the spot idea to to go Dead Man's Plate. Once the actual Dead Man's Plate is finished too, like Gnar can really never kill you as long as you don't like severely fuck up, because if he tries to all in you, you can just run away with the movement speed of Dead Man's Plate, and if he tries to kite you, then you can be tanky enough to realize, oh hey, this Gnar is trying to kite me, I'm just going to go ahead and disengage and walk away because my Dead Man's Plate makes me fast. The downside definitely is that you have basically no early game damage. This is a really good strat to run if your team is even or ahead and you just want to survive the lane versus a good Gnar, because a good Gnar player will demolish you. If the Gnar player is even slightly better than the Singed player, he'll just demolish you. I would say for a Singed player to beat a Gnar player, the Singed player in terms of skill probably has to be at least an entire tier above the Gnar player. Obviously that's not possible here because we're both in Challenger. So it's very, very hard to, in my experience, run the classic like AP Rylai's Leandry's rush into Gnar. Even though versus most matchups that is what I have been doing, and it's been giving me a lot of success, versus a character like this who is pretty much skill for skill or ability for ability counter Singed, you can't really do that. So the best solution is to just get tanky and try and survive and cheese, which is what I did here. Right here, we're gonna go and try and TP bottom. I canceled my TP right here because I did not have ultimate. If you can see up there, my ult's down. And if I TP'd into this clusterfuck, I would have died. It actually ended up being really good because Draven procced his passive and got a kill right before he died. Unfortunately, we lost some Graves, but it did bring Gnar down to bot lane, which gives me a lot of time to just farm this up. He only got like an assist out of it, so it's still really, really good for me. And then I just walk up here and start hitting the tower. As you can see, because I have no AP, my tower damage is basically non-existent, and it's not that big of a deal. But the best part of here is that we got a kill for Draven. He procced his passive, finished Infinity Edge, he sells a whole nother BF sword, and I got to farm while Gnar kind of TP'd bot, and all he got for it was an assist. Overall, we did lose that trade because Graves died too, but it's not the worst thing in the world because Draven got a shit ton of gold from proccing his passive. So right there, if I did not have the items that I did, I would be about a quarter HP. But because I have those items, even though he hit me with 2.5 full combos, I only got to about half health, which is really, really good. And that's without me even like attempting to trade with him. Like, I'm basically just ignoring him at this point. He can try all he wants to fight me and kill me, but with Dead Man's Plate now he's not going to be able to. With Dead Man's Plate and a Cloud Dragon, I'm running back to lane with a movement speed of 456. I bought a cloth armor because I want to build into Tabby. They have 3 auto attackers, Gnar, Olaf, and Xayah. I ran back to lane, and then because I'm so fast right here, I can just run up to Gnar and then go for a kill with the flank. He's going to flash here, and it's a poor flash because I'm going to catch him anyways. I use my Ignite. Actually, you know what? I got to rewind and show you guys where I changed to Ignite. I actually changed to Ignite at 14 minutes while I was... Wait, was it 14? Where is... No, that's where I used it. Okay. So that's what happened. I think I changed... What happened was I changed to Ignite while I was running over here back to lane because my teleport was on cooldown. So what you can do is change that. The teleport will keep ticking off of cooldown while it is swapped out for Ignite. And then I use the Ignite to help secure the kill on Gnar because my damage is low. And so Ignite kind of makes up for that a little bit. That is one thing I do like about the new spellbook, is that you can swap and still have your old spells ticking off cooldown. But the problem is that you have to, in my opinion, switch to 3 other ones, including things like potentially if you want the full CDR effect, if you want that, you have to go Clarity too. And that's like the main problem I have with it, is it's not optimized as like an all-around rune that's good for top lane anymore. It tends to be more of a mid lane rune now, I think, because mid laners are going to use stuff like Clarity way more than I'm going to be able to use it, just because mid laners have a much more hungriness for mana. I ran all the way bot here because I'm really fast, and I have the ability to run across the map really quickly if I need to. Not lose anything. I'm not like worried about Gnar splitting. I can even just run across the map. Right, I'm 473 movement speed, which is just ridiculously fast to be just like crawling across the map. Gnar's over here like he's struggling to split push. He with a with a Phage proc, or with a Black Cleaver proc, he's about 421 movement speed. But I'm just running across the map with Cloud Dragon and Dead Man's Plate, tier 2 boots, with the boots upgrade, or enchantment upgrade, at 473 movement speed, which is... It puts a lot of pressure on your laner to know how to react, to understand how to react, because you could be like anywhere in a few seconds. Like I could be mid lane in a few seconds if I really wanted to. In about 15 seconds, you could be almost a bot lane, just running straight down the river with that amount of movement speed. While because Gnar is so slow, he has to rely on his teleport. So I changed my teleport to heal. I'm predicting a team fight to occur. What ends up happening is we just kind of catch the Mordekaiser making a poor recall, and then I just walk behind the tower, zone anybody out who's trying to come try and defend it, and we take the tower. Pop my ultimate because I thought we were gonna fight, and then we ended up not fighting. So I used my heal right there before I got all in by the Mordekaiser and just disengaged the whole fight. I'm running around here because I want to try and catch someone recalling in the jungle, but what ends up happening is I get hit by a Teemo Mushroom, and he recalls right at the end as I'm slowed before I could fling. Right here, I'm pinging my team back as I'm letting them know that my ultimate's off cooldown. I literally typed in chat, hey guys, like right there you can see I ping my ultimate. My ultimate's down, I don't want to fight. Generally, as Singed, you never want to fight without your ultimate. I think in this scenario, even more so, because if I don't have my ultimate, I'm basically going to contribute no damage, because at this stage of the game, normally, with this score line and this amount of CS, I would have a Rylai's and a Haunting Guys. Now, with this, I don't have that. Right here, I'm not walking back up to farm because my ult's down, and I know I can't tank him if he tries to all-in me, so I just said, fuck it, I'm going to give it the cannon. It's really no big deal. Because as I get more and more items, I get better and better to split versus Gnar until about 5 items. At 5 items, Gnar, I would say, tends to be a better 1v1 character than Singed, but at 6 items, it doesn't really matter if you can split or not. Because once you get to 6 items, you just, okay, I'm gonna actually rewind and pause this. Once you get to 6 items, it becomes more about just one big team fight as opposed to actual split pushing. So yeah, the main thing you have to worry about is if Gnar can stall the game to 5 items and then try and use that advantage to close the game out in a split push. But at 6, you don't have to worry about it as much, just because the game is going to be over in an instant. So right here, I am cutting across to mid. My ult's down still, but I use my Ghost to fling Teemo. I have a ridiculous amount of movement speed, so I just run straight at him and fling him, and he dies pretty quick. Oh yeah, they have a Teemo support, by the way. I totally forgot to mention that. Then I go ahead and pop my recall, and then I use that recall to heal up and teleport right back to mid, because I'm predicting a team fight to occur on their attempted tower defense. I ran across right there. I want to actually highlight that again. You can draw a lot of pressure this way. I ran across as I'm TPing in. I'm kind of like trying to get a gauge of how this is going to play out. And what happens is I see my team like right here just walk together. So with Dead Man's Plate, I proc that, and I'm at 612 movement speed. That's a lot of pressure on people. Even like Mordekaiser freaks out, and he just like, actually, I thought he ulted me. He actually didn't ult me, but it kind of zoned them out, and we got the whole tower because they couldn't really walk up to defend it. There was so much pressure on them to react, and then I ended up kind of freaking them out and zoning them out with just the movement speed, which is really cool, because whenever you run through your team like that with a Dead Man's Plate and that amount of movement speed, you're tanky enough, even even without your ult, to maybe get a fling off. I wouldn't recommend it because odds are if the enemy team is smart enough to know how weak you are without ultimate, they can blow you up. But just the sheer movement speed of it makes it so that you're able to put pressure via a really fast fling like that. I'm building into a Rylai's second item because I just want the utility of the slow. They changed it to have plus 90, right? Changed it to have plus 90 AP this patch instead of plus 85. That doesn't matter that much at all. For Singe, they're just trying to make it a little bit more enticing for like mid laners to buy it, basically, without putting the really overpowered old 40% slow on it that every mid laner could use and just abuse, which I think is fine. Plus 5 AP on Rylai's is really not going to really ever matter for Singe, just because your ratios on your abilities are not high enough for plus 5 of anything to really matter. Still putting a lot of pressure on their team. I'm getting close to finishing Rylai's. Right here, this is cool. So I did the same thing here. Notice my movement speed here. I have 626 movement speed, and I just walk right up and catch him with a W. I'm going to rewind that real quick and show you guys one more time. Gnar has no idea that my team is right here and they're collapsing until it's too late. So I just walk right around with my Dead Man's Plate, get 3 procs of my passive, run right up, and then slow him. Like, he had really essentially no time to react to that because of how quickly I ran into the lane and put W down. Like, he had flash still, and he couldn't even use that because I got my grounding off so quickly. Generally, if you're running up to someone without having a Dead Man's Plate this early, like say I just had a Rylai's and my Haunting guys, I would probably have had to like have Ghost there or use my ultimate there to get the movement speed to walk up. In that case, I didn't need to because I was so fast already with my Dead Man's Plate. So here's a fight gonna break out. Galio flashes in, gets a 4-man taunt, gets a big Q off. I pop my ultimate and I start running in, but they just all disengage and we get a quick kill and then we walk away. So now we have 2 enemy teammates dead. We start to go for the Baron. I think I just walk all the way around and I start tanking it. Pretty typical Baron take right here. Nothing too fancy, just slowly closing the game out. From a Singe perspective, this game is not that exciting, but the reason that, like I said at the start of the video, that I'm highlighting it is because it does illustrate, I think, a way to play versus Gnar that, at least versus a good Gnar player, that could be very useful. Right there, I just used my barrier because I wasn't going to have it up for the next team fight anyways. Actually, I would have had it up, that's not what I meant. I wanted to have my teleport up, so I didn't really predict a team fight to happen anytime soon because we're just going to 1-3-1, I'm assuming, or just 1-4, actually, is what we're doing, 1-4 because Galio died. And honestly, like, it's better just to be able, for me to know, like, mentally it's hard for me to keep track of the teleport cooldown until, like, unless I have just used it, then I can kind of like, okay, sure, 5 minutes until teleport. I wasn't really paying attention at that point. I still need a lot of practice with the rune. Otherwise, I probably would have been more conservative with that barrier cooldown. But with what I had there, I felt like it was just better for me to get that barrier off my screen and just understand what my teleport cooldown is until I get better at tracking, like, mentally what the cooldown is of the spell that I switched off of. I will probably need to do that just because I'm not used to this rune yet. It's a brand new rune. So we're just walking bot lane. We're sieging with my team. I run across my entire team to get my movement speed up. I run up and I disengage really quickly as soon as I get Mordekaiser ulted. Because once you're Mordekaiser ulted, you don't really want to stay in the middle of the team, because if you die, then Mordekaiser ends up, 1, leeching your stats, and 2, getting a pretty buff ghost. Him having a ghost of me would not be as big of a deal as him having a ghost of Archraven, but I still don't want that to happen because the Mordekaiser putting his ghost on you means the whole enemy team's going to focus you. You're taking increased damage. You're taking down slowly. It tends to be better just to walk away if you get Mordekaiser ulted in a situation like that. So right here, I'm TPing mid onto a minion. I do a pretty wacky play here. I had changed to Ghost, and so I used that, or not to Ghost, sorry, I changed to Flash, and I used that to flash on Xayah and try and catch her, but she ends up popping her ultimate and then flashing away. I ended up dying, but my team ends up getting a bunch of kills. Raven's just over here going batshit crazy, killing everybody. Good old Tyler won, and then we ended up taking the inhibs and winning the game. So I want to show that one more time. The point at which I switched to flash is right here. So you can see there's a 5-second wait time after you switch and use your ability, and that, or use your summoner spell, and there's a 10-second wait after that to use the summoner that you already had. We didn't end up like killing the Zaya with that, but it was still a pretty fun little play that you can do. Things like that. You do have to be aware of the delays. When you switch, you have a 5-second cooldown until you can use your new summoner. And if you swapped from a summoner that was already available, if you swap back, you have to wait 10 seconds to use a summoner you had before. So, for example, you can't just like have Ignite Flash, or sorry, Ignite Ghost, and then just like switch your Ghost to Flash, and then go like Ignite Flash Ghost. You can't do that because you have to wait the 5 seconds, and you have to wait the 10 seconds. So it does require some forethought on the rune, but I do think that I was being way too harsh on the spellbook in my previous rant video. I still don't think it's as good as the old spellbook, at least for top lane, but this one is still pretty nifty. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.